Today, I'm going to tell you one of the most disturbing and chilling ghost stories ever recorded. We're about to step into the haunted corridors of Waverly Hills Sanatorium, a place where death and suffering left marks that were never erased. But before we dive into this terrifying story, make sure to show some courage by hitting that like button. After all, it takes guts to hear what you're about to listen to. And don't forget to subscribe for more bone-chilling tales based on true events. Now, prepare yourself for a journey into the unknown. Just be careful not to look behind you. You may not be alone. Chapter 1. The Birth of a Nightmare. The story of Waverly Hills Sanatorium begins in the early 20th century, during a dark time in medical history. Tuberculosis, known then as the White Plague, was spreading rapidly across the United States, especially in rural Kentucky. With limited medical advancements, those infected were doomed to a slow, painful death. Without a cure, the only treatment was isolation, leading to the construction of sanatoriums dedicated to treating the disease. In 1910, Waverly Hills Sanatorium was built on top of a hill, far from the city. The site was chosen both for its altitude and isolation, as it was believed that fresh air and solitude would help patients recover. Initially, it was a small hospital with the capacity to treat around 40 patients, but as the epidemic worsened, demand grew, and the sanatorium expanded to accommodate hundreds of the sick. The atmosphere was grim, marked by the constant presence of death. Treatments were experimental and often brutal. Doctors performed surgeries without adequate anesthesia, removing ribs from patients to allow their lungs to breathe better. The sanatorium soon became a place of despair, where hope faded quickly. However, the most feared location in the sanatorium was the body chute, a long, dark tunnel used to discreetly transport the bodies of the deceased out of the building so that the living wouldn't witness the constant stream of deaths. It's estimated that more than 63,000 people died at Waverly Hills over the years. But this isn't just about numbers. The suffering left invisible scars, and some say that not all the souls who passed through the sanatorium ever truly left. Chapter 2. The First Apparitions. After the sanatorium closed in the 1960s, the building was abandoned. It didn't take long for stories of hauntings to spread among those brave enough to explore its decaying halls. Night watchmen and urban explorers began reporting inexplicable phenomena, which would eventually make Waverly Hills one of the most haunted locations in America. One of the earliest reports was that of a spectral woman dressed in white. She was often seen wandering the halls of the old hospital, her hands covering her face, as if weeping. Some believe she was a former patient who died on the premises, overcome by the weight of her illness and the isolation of the sanatorium. Others, however, think she might be a nurse. This rumor was reinforced by the infamous story of Room 502, where a nurse was found hanging. In the 1930s, it's said she discovered she was pregnant by one of the sanatorium doctors. Overwhelmed with despair and without support, she took her own life. Since then, Room 502 has become a dark legend, with whispers of voices and the sensation of being watched. Visitors who approach the room report an overwhelming feeling of sadness and dread, as if the nurse's sorrow is still trapped within those walls. But this was just the beginning. As more people ventured into the sanatorium, seeking adrenaline or supernatural encounters, the phenomena only intensified. Chapter 3. The Boy with the Ball. Among the most frequently reported entities at Waverly Hills is that of a boy named Timmy. Many believe Timmy was one of the child patients who died of tuberculosis in the sanatorium. But what makes his story particularly eerie are the frequent sightings of his presence. In 1975, a group of paranormal investigators ventured into the sanatorium, motivated by the constant reports of supernatural activity. As they explored the dark, decaying corridors of the building, they began to hear an unusual sound, the sound of a rubber ball bouncing on the floor. The noise echoed through the empty hallways, as if someone was playing. Intrigued, they followed the sound to one of the abandoned rooms, but found nothing. However, one of the investigators caught a glimpse of something out of the corner of his eye. It was a small figure, like that of a boy, running down the end of the hallway. He was always just out of reach, like a fleeting shadow, disappearing before they could get close. Spooked but curious, they tried to follow the boy's spirit, but every time they approached, he vanished. At one point, the rubber ball bounced on its own toward one of the investigators' feet. The story of Timmy soon spread, and later visitors began bringing toy balls to the sanatorium, hoping the boy's spirit would interact with them. And he seemed to respond. On several occasions, balls were seen rolling or bouncing by themselves. Sometimes, the faint laughter of a child could be heard echoing through the empty corridors, a haunting reminder of the lives that once inhabited the place. But Timmy wasn't the only spirit trapped in Waverly Hills. As more stories emerged, something far darker revealed itself. Chapter 4. The Shadow Man. Over the decades, many entities have been spotted at Waverly Hills. However, none inspire as much fear as the Shadow Man. Described by many as a tall, black figure without a face, he doesn't appear to be the spirit of a former patient or staff member. He is something much older and more malevolent. The Shadow Man doesn't walk the halls like the other spirits. He lurks in the darkest corners, always watching but never fully revealing himself. Witnesses claim that when they see him, they feel an oppressive presence, as if the air around them grows heavier and fear immediately sets in. Some describe feeling paralyzed, unable to move or speak as the dark figure slowly approaches. Some believe the Shadow Man isn't a human spirit but a manifestation of the accumulated evil in the sanatorium over the years. With so much death and suffering, the place seems to have become a magnet for negative energies. This entity, they say, is the result of all the pain and despair haunting Waverly Hills. Numerous ghost hunters and paranormal experts have tried to capture evidence of the Shadow Man. Some have managed to capture blurry images of a dark, featureless figure, but most claim he's impossible to fully capture. He is, for many, the greatest mystery of the sanatorium, and those who encounter him rarely leave without bearing psychological scars from the experience. Chapter 5. The Unrevealed Mystery. Waverly Hills Sanatorium has attracted many paranormal investigators and ghost hunters. However, not everyone who ventured inside its walls made it out unscathed. There are reports of people who disappeared during the early explorations of the site in the 1980s. These individuals entered the sanatorium, often in groups, but mysteriously were never found again. Local police conducted investigations, but without conclusive evidence, the cases were eventually shelved. What really happened to those people remains a mystery. Witnesses who shared their own experiences say that, in some cases, they heard distant screams coming from unexplored areas of the building. When they followed the sounds, however, they found the place empty, as if the screams were echoing from another dimension. The disappearances, combined with the presence of the Shadow Man, have led some to believe that there's something far more sinister at Waverly Hills, something that goes beyond mere spirits. An entity that guards dark secrets and perhaps is responsible for these unexplained disappearances. Chapter 6. The Eternal Silence. Today, Waverly Hills Sanatorium is open for visits, and adventurers from all over continue to explore its halls. However, those who enter know they're not alone. The empty corridors, the abandoned rooms, and the dreaded body chutes still carry the energies of the thousands of souls who once suffered there. Many visitors report feeling a cold presence brush past them, hearing voices whispering their names, and some even witness objects moving on their own.
I gotta find more though.
But the bravest know that the apparitions of Timmy, the nurse from room 502, and the Shadow Man are just the surface. Something deeper, more terrifying, still lurks in the shadows. Waverly Hills holds secrets that have never fully been revealed. And while some try to find answers, others believe it's better to leave these mysteries buried in silence. If you manage to survive this chilling story and want to uncover more terrifying haunted places, make sure to drop a like on this video. Consider it your offering to the spirits we've just disturbed. And don't forget to subscribe for more hair-raising stories based on real events. Now, tell me in the comments, would you dare visit Waverly Hills and explore its darkest secrets?